හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Monday, the 26th of February 2024. Speaker troubles. Opposition parties sign no confidence motion against Speaker of Parliament following controversy of the online safety bill. Liberalisation. United Petroleum enters the fuel distribution network in Sri Lanka. Disappointment. Several potential investors who had submitted expressions of interest for the divestment of Sri Lankan Airlines withdraw their proposals after staff no-shows. Tariff stays. No water tariff hike for 2024, confirms government. New tariff formula in the works.
There will not be a water tariff hike. There's a water tariff formula in place right now, and we are waiting for it to be drafted.
70% salary hike. Central Bank Executive Officers Union officially respond to the recent issue about salary hikes and request that they be summoned to Parliament for clarification.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9 with Indivari Amuata and Mahish Jani. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a very good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to First at 9, where your one-stop shop, where we give you all the latest information with regard to local news, international news, sports, weather, whatever that matters to you. We bring it to you every day at 9 p.m.
Good evening. Good evening, Mahesh. Good evening, wherever you're watching from, whether at home or on mobile. This is First at 9, and we're back with your Monday to Friday newscast.
How was your weekend, Indivari?
It was good. Did a bit
You
of
slept,
reading.
didn't you? You slept the whole weekend.
Yeah, you should get the cue when I say I did a bit of reading.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not easy really to be doing this 5 days a week, to be anchoring the news.
Are you speaking to the management?
This is probably
sending a signal per
This is
se?
probably a message, but yeah, it's not easy. But we certainly enjoy reading, anchoring the news out and relating the day's stories from across Sri Lanka, and of course from around the world to you. And of course, Aditya will see you during the weekend.
A lot of stories, as always, to bring to you. There are interesting stories with regard to Sri Lankan Airlines. What happened? The minister has the information. Technical issues is what they always go to. That is the go-to line. And apparently this time around, it seems a little bit different from what it was prior.
And also we all have a story about a new entrant to the fuel market. It's interesting how back in 2003, the local fuel distribution market was a monopoly of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. And slowly we had the Indian oil companies, Sri Lankan arm, LIOC, coming in. And after the fuel crisis, market liberalisation, which is very healthy for the fuel market. We had Sinopec coming in, and now an Australian.
Yeah, that was not like earlier they said that there is a company from Australia coming in, but then later on they said they changed the word saying that no, that's not going to happen. But right now apparently there is confirmation with regard to that. So lots of stories as always. So let's begin. We begin with regard to a news item that might affect you very much. Minister of Water Supply and Estate Infrastructure, Jeevan Thondaman, assured that the 2024 year will not see a water tariff hike.
He went on to confirm that a water tariff formula has been established with his ministry, anticipating the approval of the Cabinet of Ministers. During a media briefing today, he also stated that the newly established water tariff formula will be presented to the Committee on Public Enterprises as well as Parliament to seek their opinion on the matter.
Now, the minister pointed out that the formula indicates an increase of water tariff from 9 to 10% compared to existing tariff rates, and added that the tariff formula will be implemented in 2025.
We have made it very clear that there will not be a water tariff hike. In fact, the government is working towards how we can lessen the burden on the consumers right now. Today, the consumption rate is on an average is about 13.5 units per family. We have been able to provide about 103,000 connections till date. We have kept a target to achieve this year as well. We are, however, waiting for the debt restructuring to end, which is coming to a close very shortly. And once that finishes, we are firm on the fact that we will be able to go on a path where we would be able to achieve Sustainable Development Goal number 6. There's a water tariff formula in place right now, and we are waiting for it to be drafted, and we seek approval from the cabinet. And once this water tariff formula is in place, there will be an annual revision with an option of a biannual review. So once this is in place, we will be able to attract investors to come on board, not privatization, but public-private partnerships. When we enhance private sector participation, we are also creating a more competitive industry which will provide better quality and cheaper prices. So we are fairly confident that with the water tariff formula, there is stability to the water sector, and that will be coming into implementation very shortly. And we will also be submitting it to the COPE committee and also Parliament.
Comparing current water tariff and your formula, how do you see the current tariff? Is it higher than the formula or lower?
We have domestic, then apart from domestic, we have commercial institutions, we have ports. For each one, there's a difference. But right now, electricity is one of our main variables in that formula. So as far as it's one of the main components, that will be the decider on the water tariff rate. So now how we are looking at it is, we've already gone for a water tariff hike in August 2023. We have our team working on it. We have university professors also working on it. And I think once they come up with a number, we will have to take a decision as the government on whether we are going to impose this on the people or not. And we have already spoken to Asian Development Bank, and I had informed them that we've established the formula, and they are also happy with the fact that we established the formula. But according to the ADB requirement for this policy-based loan, implementation period is only 2025. But right now we want to get approval for the formula, so there's sustainability. And I think Honorable Minister Kanchan Vijayasekara has mentioned there will be a reduction in electricity tariff. So once there's a reduction, I think then we will view the numbers.
How many percentage?
Given the current formula setup, 9 or 10% increase. It's actually at 14%, but what we had done was, since it's at 14%, we also did a calculation on how we can do cost-cutting measures. So despite our cost-cutting measures, we can bring it down to about an increase in 9 or 10%, but we will not be imposing it as of now, because this year is meant to be the policy sector reforms. Next year is meant to be the implementation.
The formula will come to effect in next year.
If the formula shows us that there's a reduction in water tariff, then we can implement it. But if there's an increase, why should we burden the people when we are on our road to recovery? Because as of the August 2023 increase in the water tariff, we are able to come close to sustaining. So right now there is no issue in the water sector, but a formula eventually needs to be established.
In an unfortunate development, Minister of Ports and Aviation Nimal Siripal de Silva lamented the withdrawal of proposals of several potential investors who had initially thrown their names into the hat for the divestiture of Sri Lankan Airlines.
Now, this development comes in the aftermath of a day of debacles at the Bandaranaike International Airport that saw around 3 flights being delayed and multiple staff not reporting in for work without prior notice. Now, technical issues were the reason cited by Sri Lankan Airlines officials regarding the flight delays at the airport yesterday.
Tensions ran high between the passengers and the staff of the Bandaranaike International Airport early yesterday, as passengers were inconvenienced by the delay of flights operated by Sri Lankan Airlines.
Look, what time is it? Look me! Where is the hotel? Call a bus hotel! No!
Following the flight delays and cancellations, airport staff manning the counters temporarily withdrew from their duties without prior notification to the management of the airport. The withdrawal from service resulted in the delay of 4 Sri Lankan Airlines flights leaving for Chennai, Hyderabad, Kuala Lumpur and Dhaka. During a meeting with Minister of Aviation Nimal Siripala de Silva, the chairman and officials of Sri Lankan Airlines explained the reasons for the delays.
The Lahore මියෙක් වැටුණු හින්දා ඒ ෆ්ලයිට් එක ලාහෝර් ඉඳන් ආවනේ කරදරයක් නැතුව.
අවසරයි අපිට රෙජිස්ටර් කරන්න බෑන්ස් මොකද මියා වයර් කපන්න පුළුවන් ඒ වගේ මොනවද ඩැමේජ් වෙනවා.
Passenger complain වුණාට පස්සේ you have to take the right precautionary.
ඒකට කොච්චර වෙලාවක් ගියද මියා අල්ලගන්න. ඉතින් නැත්නම් ඒවට ක්‍රමසාවිදි මොන හරි බෙහෙත් ගහන්න මේවා කරලා නිර්විතනය කරන්න දැන් තියෙනවා නිව් ටෙක්නොලොජිස් ආදයානෝ.
ෆස්ට් ස්ටෙප් එක තමයි මියා ට්‍රැප් කරන එක බ්ලූ ට්‍රැප්ස් තියලා බේට්ස් තියලා අල්ලන්න.
අල්ලන්න කොච්චර වෙලාවක් ගියාද ෆ්ලයිට් එක ආපු වෙලාවෙ ඉඳන්. ඔව්. 25 වෙනකන් ඒ ෆ්ලයිට් එක දිව්වේ නැද්ද කොහෙවත්?
ඒක කෙරුවේ නැතිනම් අන්තිම යාබස් අපිට කියලා තිබුණේ කෙමිකල් එකක් ගහලා එයාක්‍රාෆ්ට් එක වහන්න කියලා දවසක්. ඒ කියන්නේ මීයා මැරෙන්නේ.
ඊළඟ ඩිලේ එකට හේතුව මොකද්ද?
ඩිලේ දෙකතුනක් තිබ්බයි එකක් තමයි ඒක එයාක්‍රාෆ්ට් එක ඉන්ජින් ස්ටාර්ට් කරනකොට ටෙම්පරේචර් එක වැඩි වෙලා ඉන්ජින් එක හැංග් වෙනවා. එතකොට ඒකට කම්පෝනන්ට්ස් මාරු කරලා බැලුවොත් ඒක ඉන්ජින් එක මාරු කරන්න තීරණය කළා. කම්පෝනන්ට්ස් මාරු කරනකොට අපිට කම්පෝනන්ට්ස් නෑ අපිට වෙන තියෙන ඉන්ජින් එකකින් ගලවලා තමයි කම්පෝනන්ට්ස් දාන්නේ. ඒකෝට ඒකට ඩිලේ මේකයි ඊළඟ එක උඩාවියලින් නම් එයාක්‍රාෆ්ට් එක එනකොට උඩාවියලත් එක්ක පරස්පරණ පාකින් බ්‍රේක් හෝල්ඩ් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක තමයි ට්‍රිපල් එන්නේ. ඒකත් එක්කම අපි ටෙම්පරරි සොලියුෂන් එකක් දාලා එයාක්‍රාෆ්ට් එක ගෙනාවා. ගෙනල්ලා ඉතින් මේ ගෙනල්ලා ඒක ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් කරලා ඒ කියන්නේ ගේජ් එකත් එක්ක ඒක හැදුවා.
ඒතර එයාක්‍රාෆ්ට් තුනක් ඔයාලට පාවිච්චි කරන්න බැරි වුණා ටෙක්නිකල් ඩිෆෙක්ට් නිසා.
යා ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් හැන්ඩ්ලින්ග් එක මැනේජ් කරගන්න ලේසි වුණේ නැහැ. So we knew that there was
නෑ ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් හැන්ඩ්ලින්ග් වල අවශ්‍ය ස්ටාෆ් එක හිටියේ නෑනේ. ලීව් දුන්නනේ ඇයට.
නෑ සර් ලීව් දුන්නේ නෑ ලීව් දුන්නේ තුනයි. අනිත් අය ආවේ නෑ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඇවරේජ්.
නෑ ඒ ආපු නැති අයගේ ලිස්ට් එකක් දීලා ඔක්කොම අස් කරලා දාන්න මෙහෙම ඇවිල්ලා මෙහෙම ප්‍රශ්න ඇති කරන මිනිස්සු තියාගෙන එයාලා ඉන්න එකක් දුවන්න බෑ. You sack them immediately. ඒක අනිත් මිනිස්සු හරි වෙලාවට වැඩට එයි හරියට. මේ වෙලාවේ ඕන විදිහට ලීව් ගන්න බෑ. එක්කෝ එයායි තීන්දුව කරන්න ඕනේ මේ එයාලා ඉන්න එක තියාගන්නවද තව ටික දවසක් නැත්නම් හෙට අනිද්දා මේ එයාලා ඉන්න එක වහලා දානවද කියන එක. ඔයාට උන වහලා දාන්න නම් ඔය ලීව් අරගෙන සැප පහසුකම් අරගෙන ඒව කරගෙන ඉන්න. එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ එයාලා ඉන්නේ ගෙනියන්න බෑ. එයාලා ඉන්න එකේ දැන් 5 වෙනිදා අපි expression of interest close කරනවා. ආපු මිනිස්සු කීප දෙනෙක් අද හැවිලා යනවා මේ එයාලා ඉන්න එක එක්ක වැඩ කරන්න බෑ කියලා.
Sri Lanka's Central Bank Executive Officers Union has issued a statement in response to the controversy surrounding the steep salary increment said to have been granted to employees of the central bank. The union said that the discourse so far has been one-sided. Meanwhile, State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinga said that the Committee on Public Finance should summon central bank officials to clarify the salary hikes.
The Central Bank Executive Officers Union issued a special announcement today regarding the criticism within society regarding the revision of employee salaries. It states that the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has been established as an independent institution since its inception. Accordingly, all decision-making independence vested with the Central Bank administration is based on logic, relative to the same independence available to other central banks in the world. The announcement indicates that the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has lost nearly 100 experienced officers who worked there over the past year. The union points out that if the salary revision does not take place, the central bank stands to lose a significant number of remaining officers, which will reverberate and hamper the country and the bank's operations at large. Commenting on the situation, State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinga said that the Public Finance Committee should summon the central bank to clarify the situation.
අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා රජයේ මුදල් පිළිබඳ කාර්ක සභාව මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් මහ බැංකුව කැඳවලා විමසීමක් කිරීම වඩා සුදුසුයි. මොකද රජයේ මුදල් සම්බන්ධයෙන් මේ වෙනකොට පාර්ලිමේන්තුව කටයුතු කරන්නේ රජයේ මුදල් පිළිබඳ කාර්ක සභාව. ඒ එක්කම තමයි මේ වෙනකොටම මහ බැංකුවත් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කළා තියෙනවා මේ ඔවුන්ව කැඳවලා ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් විමසීමක් කරන්න කියලා. ඉතින් මුදල් කාර්ක සභාවට පුළුවන් හැකියාව තියෙනවා මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කටයුතු කරන්න. මම හිතනවා කමිටුවේ සභාපතිවරයා හැටියට ආචාර්ය හර්ෂ සිල්ලමැතුමා දේශගත වෙලා ලංකාවට ආපුවාම ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් දිනයක් නියම කරලා ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කටයුතු කරાવી කියලා.
Now, the Department of Meteorology today announced that the prevailing extreme weather is likely to change from tomorrow onwards. In its weather forecast, the Met Department states that rains can be expected in parts of the country, while the prevailing dry conditions will continue in certain areas until significant rainfall is expected. Now, additionally, health officials have once again reiterated concerns of dehydration among vulnerable classes, including the older folk and children.
Parts of the country continue to experience soaring temperatures and oppressive weather conditions over the past few days, waging a heavy toll on the general public. Highlighting the extreme weather experienced by the country, the Meteorological Department last week stated that several areas in the country experienced high temperature felt on the human body and further confirmed that the scorching hot weather is most likely to continue for over a month. However, in contrast, the Met Department today with some good news stated that the prevailing dry weather conditions are expected to change from tomorrow onwards. In its weather forecast today, the department added that rains will occur in the Norelia, Matale and Polonnaruwa districts, while several spells of showers can be expected in the eastern and Nuva provinces and in the Anuradhapura district tomorrow. Rains have also been anticipated in the western and Sabaragama provinces and in the Kandy, Galle and Mathura districts, with fairly strong winds of 30 to 40 km per hour also expected in several areas.
හැබැයි සමහර අවස්ථාවල සවස් යාමයේ හෝ රාත්‍රී කාලේ දිවයිනේ නිති දෙක කොටස ඌව වගේ පළාත්වල තනින් තන වැසි තත්ත්වයන් නිර්මාණය වෙනවා. හැබැයි ඒවා සැලකිය යුතු වර්ෂාපතන නෙවෙයි. එතකොට මේ අධික උණුසුම් කාලගුණික තත්ත්වය පහව යන්න නම් සැලකිය යුතු වර්ෂාපතනයක් අවශ්‍යයි. එතකොට පොඩි පොඩි වර්ෂාපතන තිබ්බට ඉදිරි මාසයේ වුණත් සාමාන්‍ය සැලකිය යුතු වර්ෂාපතනයක් අපේක්ෂා කරන්න හැකියාවක් තියෙන්නේ අප්‍රේල් මාසයේ මැද විතර වගේ වෙනකොට තමයි. එතකොට එවැනි කාලයක් වෙනකොට මේ වැසි තත්ත්වය හේතු කොටගෙන උණුසුම් කාලගුණික තත්ත්වය ක්‍රමයෙන් අඩු වෙලා
Meanwhile, in response to the high temperatures currently being experienced, the Ministry of Education today issued a set of guidelines aimed at ensuring the protection of school children from potentially adverse effects. Issuing a statement, the ministry announced that directives have already been communicated to all provincial directors of education, instructing them to disseminate the guidelines among school principals. The Met Department too advised the public to take necessary precautions to prevent any adverse effects of the prevailing hot weather.
අධික රස්නීය හේතු කොටගෙන විශේෂයෙන්ම කුඩා ළමයි සහ මහලු උදවියට මේක විශේෂයෙන්ම බලපාන්න පුළුවන්. අනිත් එක තමයි නිදන්ගත රෝග තියෙන අයටත් මේකේ විශාල බලපෑමක් ඇති වෙන්න හැකියාවක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා නිරන්තරයෙන්ම ජලය වැඩියෙන් පානය කරන්න කියලා.
Several opposition parties led by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa signed a no-confidence motion against Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapa Abewardena today, charging that he had violated the Constitution of Sri Lanka.
Now, the no-confidence motion was introduced after Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapa Abewardena endorsed the online safety bill earlier this month and thus ratifying the new law. Accordingly, several MPs belonging to the opposition in Parliament, including M.A. Sumanthiran, Lakshman Kiriyalla, G.L. Piris, Tisathanayaka, Chandima Virakodi and Sean Vijayalal De Silva signed the no-confidence motion against the Speaker for approving the much-disputed online safety bill amidst irregular procedure.
ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණය ලබා දුන්නු නිර්දේශ සහ යෝජනා සහ මුලින්ම බැහැරකොට මෙම පනත කතානායකවරයාගේ ප්‍රධානත්වයෙන් සම්මත වී ඔහු එයට අත්සන් තබා රටේ නීතියක් බවට පත් කර තිබෙන්නේ අනීතික ක්‍රමවේදයක් තුල. කතානායකවරයාගේ ක්‍රියාකාරකම පිළිබඳව අප්‍රසාදය පළ කරමින් ඔහු තුල තිබුණා වූ විශ්වාසය භංග වී තිබෙනවායි කියන අදහස අපි විපක්ෂයේ තීන්දුවක් හැටියට අද රටට ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා.
මාර්ගගත සුරක්ෂිත පනත සම්බන්ධයෙන් ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණය දුන්න ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධන 9ක් ඒ 9 අතර වැදගත් පහක් තියෙනවා. ඒ පහ පනත ඉදිරිපත් කරනකොට පනතට ඇතුළත් කරලා නැහැ. නිර්දේශ කරලා සංශෝධන පහම ඇතුළත් කෙරුවොත් සරල බෞද්ධරයකින් සම්මත කරගන්න පුළුවන්. ඇතුළත් කෙරුවේ නැත්නම් තුනෙන් දෙකේ සම්මත කරගන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඉතින් මෙතන විශාල වැරද්දක් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ සංශෝධනයේ ඇතුළත් නොකර සරල බෞද්ධරයකින් සම්මත කරලා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that the SRPP will defeat the no-confidence motion against the Speaker.
සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ ප්‍රමුඛ විපක්ෂය මේ කතානායකවරයාට විරුද්ධ විශ්වාස භංගයක් අත්සන් කරනවා. ඔබතුමාලගේ මොකද්ද ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය?
අපි කතානායකතුමාට පක්ෂව ඉන්නවා.
ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් සමගි ජන බලවේගය කියන විශ්වාස භංගය පරාජය කරනවා.
අනිවාර්යයෙන්.
Now, commenting on the upcoming elections, JVP's Anura Kumara Disanayaka-led National People's Power Party alleges that the government is working to create uncertainties regarding elections through various political parties, including the opposition. Meanwhile, the Samagi Jana Balavega MP Nalim Bandara said that the SJB is ready to have discussions with President Ranil Wickremesinghe if he is ready to dissolve his alliance with the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna. With that, here's a look at some comments made at the political arena today.
විවිධ වේශයේ මැතිවරණය ගැන දෙගිඩියාවක් හදන්න සමහර පාර්ශවයන් උත්සාහ කර බව පෙනුණා. එක වෙලාවක ගම්මන්පිල ලෙස එන්න පුළුවන්, තව වෙලාවක විමල් ලෙස එන්න පුළුවන්. සජිත්ලා ඒක වැඩිපුර කරනවා යටින්, හැබැයි කියවෙන එකම අදහසක්. කියන්නේ ඡන්ද ගැන දෙගිඩියාවක් හදනවා. ඒක තියනවද නැද්ද කියන එක රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහගේ කැමැත්ත ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීවරු කැමතිද? ඒක වැඩක් නෑ.
මේ වර්ෂයේ පටන් ගන්නකොට ජනාධිපතිවරයා ප්‍රකාශයක් කළා කිව්වා මේ වර්ෂයේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා පවත්වනවා කියලා. ඒක නියමිත වේලාවට පවත්වනවා. ශ්‍රී ලාංකික මහ ජනතාව ඓතිහාසික ජයග්‍රහණයක් ලබා දීමට අවශ්‍ය පෙළ ගැසීම සිදු වෙමින් තිබෙනවා.
අද ඔය එක වේදිකාවකත් මට කියන්න වැඩ පිළිවෙල ගැන කතා කරනවා. හොරගම් කරපු සල්ලි කිරේ දාලා ගන්නවා ඒක. යහපාල ආණ්ඩුවෙත් උක් කරානේ. මට නඩු 19ක් දැම්ම. මම තුන් පාරක් කිරේ දාලා. අපි නිදොස් කො නිදහස් වුණා ඒ ආණ්ඩුව කාලේ.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්මයා කියන්නේ අපේ හිටපු පක්ෂී නායකයා. තරවික්ෂ මහත්මයාගේ අපේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිවල ලොකු වෙනස්කම් නැහැ. ඉතින් අපිට එතුමත් එක්ක සාකච්ඡාවකටවත් යන්න බැරි ප්‍රධාන බාධාවක් තමයි එතුමා විසින් පොහොට්ටුව ආරක්ෂා කිරීම. එතුමා පොහොට්ටුව ඉවත් කළාවත් අපිට සාකච්ඡා කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් එහාට ඊට පස්සේ අපිට බලන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රශ්න.
යම් විදියට මොකක්ද සන්දානගත වීම ගැන
මම හිතන්නේ බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයා අසුමාන දෙක විතර එයි. පස්සේ සංවිධානය කිරීම පිළිබඳව
කවුද ඇත්තනම ජනාධිපතිවරණය සඳහා ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේ?
දේශපාලන මණ්ඩලෙන් තීන්දුවක් ගන්න එපා. ඔය කවුද කාට සහයෝගයක් කරන්න කියලා. රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ අපේ පක්ෂේ නෙවෙයිනේ. ඉතින් අපේ පක්ෂෙන් තරඟ කරනවද නැද්ද කියලා මුලින් තීන්දුවක් ගන්නවා.
Now, in a recent survey conducted on the official telephone lines belonging to state institutions across Sri Lanka revealed that a staggering 49% of these telephone lines do not operate at all. Even worse, a mere 29% of these telephone lines introduced to the public to contact state-owned institutions operate properly. Professor Vasantha Athukorala of the Department of Economics and Statistics at the University of Peradeniya pointed out that the failure such as this matter greatly and must be addressed to ensure that the improvement of the efficiency of the state sector.
In a survey conducted by the Department of Economics and Statistics of the University of Peradeniya, it was revealed that 71% of official telephone lines of state institutions of Sri Lanka do not function properly. The survey pool included official telephone lines assigned to Grama Niladhari officers, Samurdhi officers and development officers from divisional secretariats across Sri Lanka. The survey conducted under Professor Vasantha Athukorala of the Department of Economics and Statistics revealed that a mere 29% of official telephone lines operate properly, while 49% of the telephone lines introduced to the public to contact state-owned institutions do not even operate at all. 22% of these telephone lines do not get answered despite them being operational. Data gathered from 98 of 276 Pradeshya Sabha divisions which were surveyed showed that 14% of the telephone lines were not operational. 42% were left unanswered, with only 44% of telephone lines answered. 23 out of the 24 municipal council areas which were surveyed showed that 4% of the official telephone lines were not in operation. 44% of the telephone lines were not answered.
දැන් මේ සමස්තය තුළින් පැහැදිලි වෙන්නේ ජනතාවගේ බදු මුදලින් නඩත්තු කරන මේ රාජ්‍ය ආයතන. ඒ වගේම ජනතාවගේ බදු මුදල් අසීමිත බදු මුදලක් ගෙවලා තමයි ජනතාව ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. ඔවුන්ට සේවා සැපයීම සඳහා ලබා දීලා තියෙන මේ දුරකථන අංකයන් වලින් කිසිදු වැදගත්කමක් නැහැ. ඇත්තට මේවා තුළින් ඔවුන්ව සම්බන්ධ කර ගැනීමේ හැකියාව ඉතාමත් අඩු මට්ටමක පවතින්නේ කියන කාරණය. ඒක නිසා මේ රාජ්‍ය අංශයේ කාර්යක්ෂමතාවය වර්ධනය කරන්නට නම් මේ වගේ දේවල් විශේෂයෙන් සැලකිල්ලට ලක් කරලා යම් ආකාරයකට කටයුතු කිරීමට.
A hotline was established under the Urumaya National Programme facilitating the public access to gain freehold rights to their land. Individuals have hence been encouraged to register their requests by contacting the President's Office or the Urumaya National Operations Secretariat via hotline 1908 or telephone numbers 0114 354 600 and 0114 354 601. The hotline as well as auxiliary telephone numbers operate from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. daily. The proposal to grant unconditional freehold ownership of lands allocated to farmers and low-income earners as outlined in the Land Development Ordinance number 19 of 1935 is a standout feature of the 2024 budget. Acquiring these Urumaya freehold deeds presents an opportunity to enhance land value, preserve heritage and strengthen family-based economies, according to the government. The President's Office reported that this initiative marks a significant stride towards promoting fair land ownership and empowering the public.
A short while ago, former Acting Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Tennakoon was permanently reappointed as the 36th and new IGP of Sri Lanka. He received his letter of appointment from President Wickremesinghe a short while ago. Now, IGP Tennakoon has been instrumental in the government's Yukthiya police operation that aims to rid the nation from the drug scourge by June of this year. And in other news, one person was reported dead in a collision which occurred on the Southern Expressway earlier this morning on the stretch of road between Kottawa and Kahatuduwa. The accident tragically claimed one life.
Two lorries collided on the Southern Expressway on the stretch of road between Kottawa and Kahatuduwa, claiming the life of one individual. The accident occurred after a lorry travelling from Rathgama to Pahaliyagore rear-ended another lorry transporting cement from Hambantota to Kurunegala. The fatal accident reportedly took place in the early hours of this morning. Meanwhile, a lorry transporting rice from Polonnaruwa to Kalutara toppled in the Halagala area today. No injuries were reported following the incident. In other news, a 15-year-old schoolboy tragically drowned in the Kothmale Oya yesterday. The 15-year-old boy had reportedly gone for a swim in the Kothmale Oya when the unfortunate incident claimed his life.
Welcome back, everyone, to First at 9 rather. Now business news.
Well, Australian-owned petroleum company United Petroleum Australia recently signed an agreement with the Sri Lankan government, marking a significant step towards securing a long-term contract for the supply of petroleum products for the local market.
Now, per the agreement, the Australian-owned petroleum retailer and importer has been assigned to 150 fuel stations across the country, with 50 new fuel stations to be established in strategic locations across the nation.
In addition, this marks the first venture of the Australian company's expansion of its retail petroleum outside of Australia, with the company already owning over 500 fuel stations across Australia.
In a bid to address the foreign exchange issue of the country and to ensure a steady supply of fuel, the Ministry of Power and Energy entered into a contract with United Petroleum Australia Private Limited recently. Solidifying the company's entry to the local market, the agreement was inked on the 22nd of February by the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy, Dr. Sulakshana Jayawardena, on behalf of the Government of Sri Lanka, and Eddie Hirsch on behalf of United Petroleum Australia in his capacity as the owner of the company. Under this agreement, the Australian-owned petroleum retailer and importer has been assigned 150 fuel stations across the country, with approval further granted to construct 50 new fuel stations in strategic locations. United Petroleum Australia Private Limited, a prominent petroleum trading organisation in Australia with over 500 fuel stations in the country, has diversified its operations outside the Australian subcontinent for the first time with this venture. Accordingly, facilitating its operations in Sri Lanka, United Petroleum Australia has established a local entity named United Petroleum Lanka Private Limited. Dr. Prabhat Samarasinghe, a former board member of CPETCO and a respected professional in the petroleum industry, has been appointed the director and CEO of the company. Issuing a statement on this expansion, he emphasized that as a billion-dollar company prioritizing quality, safety and environmental standards, United Petroleum aims to introduce best practices to the local retail petroleum market and enhance the quality of products and services to its customers. This development, meanwhile, comes after the ministry explored various strategies to overcome the challenges posed by the foreign exchange crisis and thus guarantee a continuous fuel supply to consumers. In March last year, the Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to award licenses to China's Sinopec, Australia's United Petroleum and RM Parks of the USA, in collaboration with multinational oil and gas company Shell plc, to enter the fuel retail market in Sri Lanka.
Taking you to the Colombo Bourse, stocks began this week in negative territory, dragged down by losses in consumer staples and consumer discretionary stocks. The CSE All Share Price Index dipped 0.41%, down to settle 10,612.17 in negative territory. JKH and CT Holdings were the top losers on the index, falling 2.1% and 3.5%. Meanwhile, trading volume was low and the S&P SL 20 index dropped 0.25%. Equity market turnover, meanwhile, rose 1.66 billion rupees from 1.47 in the previous session. The food, beverage, tobacco sectors were the top contributors to market turnover during today's session, Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stocks worth 213.9 million rupees.
Our senior analyst from Capital Alliance, Amrit Fernando, joins us now with a few thoughts to round off a market in view segment for this week.
The domestic equity market experienced a positive trajectory, with the ASPI rising to 10,655, accompanied by a 16-point increase in the S&P SL20 to 3,065. It is important to note, however, that total market turnover witnessed a 10% decline, settling at 3.9 billion rupees. But this contraction can be attributed to the week's shortened trading period of 4 days. Additionally, as banks are publishing their quarterly financial results, there has been renewed interest in the banking sector, while certain prominent blue-chip stocks such as JKH and Expo have also garnered increased attention. These developments suggest continued upward momentum in the equity market for the forthcoming week. At last week's Treasury bill auction, we saw interest rates remain flat across the board, with the 3-month bill noting a marginal 1 basis point reduction to 9.78%. Looking ahead, the government aims to raise 122.5 million rupees through the forthcoming Treasury bill auction on Wednesday. Tourism sector indicators remain positive, with tourist arrivals maintaining a strong momentum. As of February 20th, the count stood at approximately 360,000 tourist arrivals, positioning the sector to surpass 200,000 for the third consecutive month. And on the international front, last week witnessed a major US indexes such as the Nasdaq rising on a weekly basis due to strong corporate financial results, while crude oil prices fell slightly and settled at just over $80 per barrel.
And that's all from us here at First at 9 for tonight. Be sure to join us tomorrow at the same time.
I'm Mahish Johnny.
And I'm Indivari Amuatto. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.